will affect even the reputation of that organization. Yeah, the other thing that we'll talk about is an expression of interest document. And this is common when you are doing consultancy. Qualified candidates basically are invited to give an expression of interest for consultancy services. So the request for quotation, after sending the invitation to various potential bidders, they must always express an expression of interest so that at least you know what they are interested in that particular bid. And in an expression of interest, some of the following things must be contained in an expression of interest. One of the things is the name and address of the procuring entity. The other important thing is the description of the consultancy services or works being procured. So you must be able to be specific on the type of consultancy services that you need. Remember, we talked about three types of consultancy, where we have training, we have auditing, and another type of consultancy where you give maybe specialized services. So you must be able to specify what exactly you want at the end of the day. The other important thing is the qualification necessary for one to be invited to submit a proposal. So you must be able to give some of the requirements in terms of qualifications, in terms of the experience of the expert, so that at the end of the day, they know what they are supposed to do and what their requirements is supposed to be, so that they can participate in the request for proposal. The other important thing is the place where the expression of interest is going to be submitted. So you must be able to give the exact location where you want those people to drop their expression of interest. It can either be manually through the post office, or they can come physically to that location and drop the expression of interest, or they can also do it online, depending on the instructions given on the document. The other one is evaluation of expression and invitation of interest, which is done after the deadline of submission. Once every person or every expert has submitted their proposal, the other thing is to evaluate those proposals. The expression of interest bids are examined to determine the qualified candidate in accordance to the procedures and criteria set out in the expression of interest. So you must be able to analyze some of those, the qualified people who have brought their proposal on board, so that you see the best person who is going to be selected. A minimum of 6 proposals shall be shortlisted, but if less than 6 proposals are submitted, 3 of the proposals must be shortlisted. So you must be able to ensure that at least the minimum number of the proposals submitted is 6. But if that is not the number, or that is not the case, you must ensure that at least 3 of the proposals have been shortlisted, so that they are taken to the next stage. The accounting officer shall notify all the tenderers who submitted their expression of interest of the results in writing. So the communication must be in writing, both the successful and the non-successful proposals or the expression of interest. The accounting officer shall issue all the shortlisted tenderers an invitation for request for proposal and a copy of the terms of reference. So basically, those shortlisted must be given an invitation document, so that they fill that invitation document and submit the same. And they must also be provided with a copy of terms of reference, which basically gives a detailed instruction on what they are supposed. Yes, Caleb. Yes, Caleb.
My question is.
Yes.
Hello.
Hello, I'm hearing. Yes.
Yeah, my question is,
Yes.
if concerning the number of
Yes, yes, yes.
EOI,
Yes, yes.
if if they are less, those the providers or the provider of the
Yes,
services,
yeah, yeah.
if they are they have submitted the number that are less than 3, what
Less
will
than
happen?
3. I think they will just take
Less than 3.
they might decide to invite, maybe to set another date. Maybe it might be because of maybe some of them were not prepared, or some of them did not read the expression of interest. So they might decide either to reschedule so that they can invite them on another date, or the other thing they can do, they can decide to go with the 2. If some of those experts were not qualified or something like that. So there are 2 options there. They can decide to take the 2, or they can also decide to reschedule another expression of interest on a later date. Is that okay? Yes, Caleb. Caleb,
Point taken.
point taken.
Yes, I'm
Any,
hearing you.
any other
Point
question?
taken.
Any other question? Yes, Catherine Masese.
I'm okay.
You're okay. Esther Mweni. Esther Mweni. Esther Mweni. Or Esther Jen Kamondo. Kamondo? No question, no question. So let's continue. So the other thing that we'll talk about today is some of the definitions of goods, services, and works. As we all talked earlier, goods, just a minute. Goods are intangible items that are used to satisfy people's wants and needs. So anything that you can touch and is able to satisfy your need is a good. They can also be felt, seen, and tasted. For example, food can be tasted. For example, machines can be seen and touched. Things like cars can be seen, can be touched, and can also be felt. Things like clothes, when you want to buy bread, for example. Services, these are actions that a person does for someone else in order to satisfy his or her needs. For example, you are a hairdresser. You must ensure that you make people's heads to look nice. For example, ladies, you can be a shoe shiner where you brush people's shoes. And basically that is an act that you do. And that act ensures that somebody else is satisfied at the end of the day. So characteristics that can be compared between goods, works, and services. We said that goods are tangible and services, on the other hand, are intangible. So you cannot touch a service. The other important thing is that goods can be delivered and stored before they are required, whereas services are produced and consumed simultaneously. So you must be able to consume services simultaneously. The other important thing is that goods are usually uniform in nature or homogeneous, but services are heterogeneous. They are not similar. So that services differ. One service can differ from another service, but goods are uniform in a way, homogeneous, similarities. For example, when you walk into a supermarket today, you realize that all the items, let's say you are going to buy cooking fat from a company like Bidco, you realize all the cooking fat, let's say Lianto, they are all similar. But for services, different services are different and unique in their own sense. Services perish immediately on delivery, whereas goods can be stored until they are required. So services, they perish immediately. You finish with a particular person, then that service has perished. But goods can be kept even for longer. It can go even for 1 year or more. Goods are easier to be prescribed and specified, being tangible, but services are very harder to come up with a specification. This is because they are intangible and they are not similar in nature. So basically, it is easy to come up with a specification for goods, but it is very difficult to come up with a specification for services. Ownership. Services have no transfer of ownership, making it difficult to define when a service has been fulfilled or not. This is because services cannot be separated from the person providing the service, but goods can be transferred. For example, you can have your own laptop and decide to share the laptop to another person. Services, on the other hand, require a higher level of human involvement and interaction, but goods sometimes do not require high level of human interaction. So basically, when you are dealing with a service, there must be some kind of interaction between the service provider and the person who wants the service. For example, when you're traveling, when you're boarding a matatu from your place of work to go home, the person who is doing the service is the driver, for example. So you cannot separate. Basically, there's that human involvement, and the person who is giving the service is the driver, and the person who is filling the service are the people who have boarded that matatu. The other thing is goods are usually purchased for immediate use, whereas services may be purchased for a long period of time. For example, when you walk into a supermarket and you wanted milk, you are buying that milk for a particular purpose and you are going to use it like immediately. But services, sometimes you can use it at a later date. Let's say you want a service, let's say you want to buy a credit so that you can use to call people. You can decide to use the credit later so that you call people. So let's talk about works. Works is a mixture of, or combination of services or labor and transfer of goods. Under works, basically, we have contractors, and these are suppliers who are going to execute that work on behalf of the organization or the contractee. An agreement of building a construction, for example, you must ensure that you enter into a contract between the service, the person who is going to give you the service or the contractor, and the organization that has given that service or that works. Let's say you are constructing a building, you must enter into a contract with a particular contractor who has the experience of doing that construction. So the characteristics of works may include the following. All works are associated with construction, reconstruction, repairs, or renovation of buildings. So works basically are construction in nature. There's some aspect of constructions that must be involved. For example, when you are demolishing a building, that is a works in itself. When you are repairing a building, or you are repairing a machine, or you are renovating a building or painting a building, so that is a kind of works. So it basically involves issues to do with construction, reconstruction, repairs, or renovation. Any other civil works such as site preparation, excavation, erection, building, installation or equipment, material, and finishing product. So all works may include civil works, such as coming up with the site preparation, where you are going to see where you are going to construct your building, excavation, erection of some building, installation of some items. Maybe you want to install internet in your office, or you want to install something that is going to be effective in your organization. So services which are tendered and contracted on the basis of performance or measurable physical outputs such as transport of people or goods, drilling, mapping, photocopying, or seismic investigation, but contracts which include the provision of works and services shall be regarded as work contracts if the total value of the works is greater than the value and services by the contract. Basically, that is giving, it is basically explaining what basically you're supposed to do when it comes to issues to do with works and services. Types of goods, we were talking about types of goods. One of the key types of good is the consumer goods. These are goods used for final consumption. For example, when you buy foods for purposes of consuming the goods, then that food is a consumer good. The other one is producer goods, goods that are going to be used for produce of other goods, for example, machinery, plants, and factory. So if you are buying goods so that you are going to produce other goods, basically those are producer goods. The other one is durable goods, goods not for immediate consumption and are able to be kept for a period of time. So you can decide to buy goods and keep them for a particular time. For example, dry beans. You can decide to buy dry beans so that you keep it for a particular time before you use it. So those can be described as durable goods. We have those non-durable goods. These are goods that should be consumed immediately or are used for a short period of time because they go bad easily. And they may include things like vegetables. When you're buying vegetables, vegetables are non-durable items. For example, milk is a non-durable item. This is because it takes a shorter time before it gets bad. Then you have substitute items. These are items that can be used in the place of another. For example, when you go to a supermarket and you wanted to buy a particular soap, let's say Omo, and you realize when you walk into that supermarket, they don't have Omo. So what happens? You are going to buy an alternative item, let's say Ariel, or you can decide to buy Power Boy, depending on your taste and preference. Then you have complementary goods. Complementary goods are goods which are consumed with other goods. For example, the demand for one good will lead to the demand for another good. For example, you can decide to buy car and petrol. So the moment you buy a car, you must ensure that you have the petrol intake in place. For example, you can decide to buy sugar and tea leaves. So those are complementary goods. The demand for one good leads to a demand for another good. So basically they complement each other. Services, types of services. We have consultancy services. These are services that are intellectual in nature and can only be offered by professional experts like engineering, accounting services, and law services. So basically they require a lot of intellectual capacity or intellectual capability to perform those services. The other type of services are non-consultancy services. And these are services that are related to or engage in a paid occupation that does not require advanced education or training. And the other type of service is non-professional or grade of staffs. This relates to engaging in an activity which is not one's main occupation. For example, a fruit vendor or a newspaper distributor. So there's no school that you can go that teaches you how to be a fruit vendor. So that type of service is what you are referring to as non-professional service. The other important, any question? Any question? Any question?
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Yes, when I came in, you were talking about evaluation of tenders.
Yes.
So I was asking, before evaluation, we do the opening of tenders.
Yeah, opening of tender, yes.
What is expected of when you're sent to that committee?
Expected, you see, the tender opening committee or the evaluation committee.
Tender opening committee.
So what is expected of you in terms
Yes,
of
like
what?
today I received a letter inviting me to, when you receive a letter
Yes.
inviting you to be a member in the tender opening committee.
Yes.
What actually takes place there?
So
Yes.
basically what you are going to do in the opening committee, you are going just to open the tenders and you announce the tender number, and you basically put like a serial number on top of the documents, the one the suppliers have provided. So basically what you do, you announce, let's say for example, a particular supplier, let's say supplier X, you can say supplier X, tender number this and this, you've submitted this amount of tender and what have you, and you record it in a certain book that gives a summary of all the tenders that have been opened that day. Is that okay?
Okay.
Yeah, Caleb, I can see you raise
Yes,
your
it
hand.
is.
Caleb? Esther Mweni, you've raised your hand.
It was about the tender opening committee.
Oh, you are the one who has been, oh, it's okay. Caleb, you have a question?
Yes.
Caleb?
Hello.
Yes.
I don't have a question.
Oh, I can see you've raised your hand.
It is for the previous question.
Oh, it's for the previous, eh?
Yeah.
So I believe you've enjoyed the class. And in case of any question or any clarification, I can, my number is on the platform, eh? But basically for purposes of communication, I can still give you the number right now. Maybe you can find somewhere to write the number. My name, I said, was Daniel Ndigwa. My phone number is 0728 410 616 616. My email address, maybe if you want to send an email, is Daniel Misita, MISITA @gmail.com. So if there is no other question or clarification, you can decide to end the meeting. But next time I'll organize a meeting, a Google Meet, to avoid the interruptions. Gladwell, are we together? Gladwell? Yes, Gladwell, I can.
Yes, we are together.
Oh, that is okay. So I
was
believe
requesting.
Yes. Hello.
I was requesting you can send us the notes for today.
Or the note for today.
I can hear you.
So you want the note for today, yeah? So what I'll do, I have your email addresses, eh? I'm going to extract, then I send it to you. So you've registered for the April exams, eh? All of you?
Yes.
You are doing the April exams, eh? So what we need to do basically is to move with speed so that at least we find time to also revise for the exams. So if there is no other question, I will stop there. Then we shall meet next week, same time, same place. So I beg to end the meeting now.
Okay, have a good evening.
You too.
Thank you for the class. Have a good evening.
Thank you, thank you. Professional course, my friend. Si kama hizi za next. Unajua ni wazito bwana, wanajua hizi vitu. Huwezi danganya watu. Daniel.
Wameingia wangapi Zoom?
7 bwana. That's a good number. Sasa hapo ndio inafaa uone portfolio yako bwana. Mimi kitu sijai kubali. Sasa tumseme tu hivi. Procurement of goods and services 07.
Sana? Ndio za kwenda. Sasa hapo tutakuja jina hawa. Hiyo namba, that number mdano kwa namba. By the way, jina na register.
Kuna mwenye nilikurecommend hata mimi nilileta wawili.
Sio na register mbaya sana. Kwa hiyo kwa hiyo kama hiyo. Namsho register na ikale mpemba ama kisi
Kisi. Register na kisi.
Aiwa.